Bienvenidos, aloha, welcome into Sunset Rewind. Alex Crawford and former Oregon State tight end Howard Kroom with you here, wrapping up Week 9, rivalry week. We had the Battle of the Bay, we had the Bell game, but before we get into our breakdown of those two games, take a minute, follow us on social media, at sunset_rewind, and go to sunsetrewind.com. Howard, the website's getting better every week.
Well, we use it week after week for our prep for every game. We go reference the stats, see what happened in last week's Sunset League competition. So it's definitely a useful tool for anybody who wants to do some research on Sunset League, or if you're just a fan or a player, check it out.
I was on sunsetrewind.com before the Battle of the Bay, prepping for our broadcast on TAR TV. I was on sunsetrewind.com this morning, finding out what happened in the other games. It really is your number one source for news, information, highlights, etc. from Sunset League football. Let's get right into the games. The biggest game, the biggest rivalry game with the most at stake. Friday night, Davidson Field, the 60th Battle of the Bay. It lived up to the hype in the first half, but in the second half, we saw the trajectory of Newport Harbor and CDM on display. Sailors' offensive woes came to the surface. CDM made halftime adjustments. It was 14-12 at halftime, and Corona Del Mar hung on to win 35-12. Here was the scene from Davidson Field after the Sea Kings won their 9th straight.
Well, definitely an exciting scene at Davidson, as we can see. I mean, we knew that this game was going to send somebody to the playoffs. We thought CDM was going either way, but we can't talk about enough how big the implications were. The stadium was packed, both sidelines were packed with alumni, and as we said, one team going to the playoffs for sure, the other team going home. So CDM, they earned that victory. Excellent halftime adjustments. I mean, we felt like the first quarter was enough for a full football game. We saw 4 or 5 different turnovers, takeaways from defenses. We saw sacks. We saw an onside kick that was recovered that led to 7 points for the Sea Kings. I mean, just an impressive display of football, and particularly from Corona Del Mar's offense. You know, early on, David Rasor, while he looked excellent, you look down at the stat sheet and you see that he had 4 interceptions. You know, you don't often have 4 picks but still have a good game, but it's a credit to Coach O'Shea drawing up different plays, staying confident, David Rasor not getting rattled, and Corona Del Mar, they went out and earned that victory.
Our reporter, Chris Babona, caught up with junior quarterback David Rasor after the game, talking about halftime adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first half was not our cleanest half of football. We know that. We didn't play like a quarter of what we know we could have played. We went in the locker room. We flushed everything, and we got going in the second half, and it was good.
Now, Howard, if your defense forces 5 turnovers in a half, 4 interceptions from David Rasor, and then 1 turnover on downs, and you only come away with 12 points, that's an indictment of the offense. That's a problem for Newport Harbor, not just in this game, which they lost. No postseason berth for the Sailors. That's been a problem for them all season.
Well, we knew at halftime when it was 14-12 and the Sailors were feeling great about themselves, we didn't want to be pessimistic, but it kind of felt like fool's gold in a sense because, like you said, 4 takeaways plus a turnover on downs, and that led to what? I think it was 2 field goals from the Sailors. So you just can't have that. It was an offense, though, that looked good at times. You know, A.J. Gutierrez, he had some reads against the zone defense of CDM that were absolutely excellent. He let Zach Zamora clear the linebackers and fit it into tight holes, hooked up with Cash and Hingham on a couple of good balls. So there were some things that looked good out of the Sailors, but ultimately, when you're stuck with 12 points, if you tell a team, hey, we're going to give you guys 5 turnovers, you're going to win the turnover battle, that's usually a recipe to win the game. But the fact that the Sailors couldn't score any points is certainly an indictment on what's going on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, Howard, as you said, Davidson was packed. We were there. Let's run our highlights. We were calling the game for the broadcast on TAR TV. Here's some highlights from the 60th Battle of the Bay.
3rd down and 6. Jacob Carlone showing pressure on the edge. Sailors bring pressure. Rasor hit as he throws. Jump ball. And it's intercepted. Andrew Chenier, the acrobat. Oh, my goodness. Rasor. Oh, Charlie Mannon all alone in the end zone. Touchdown, Sea Kings. Colin Penne, an onside kick. It goes 10 yards. It's recovered by Corona Del Mar.
What a bounce.
Oh, my goodness.
What a bounce.
Textbook. Gutierrez Moore pressured. Throws. Caught by Lamarque. He's got a step. He's going for the end zone. Touchdown, Sailors. Josiah Lamarque.
Oh, my goodness. Josiah Lamarque is just different.
David Rasor taking chances. CDM taking chances. Going for it. Swing pass out of the backfield. Sanders, first down and more across the 20. Splits the defenders. One man to beat. And he beats them. Touchdown, Sea Kings. Oh, and Cole Clemmer, the center, waving goodbye to the home side here at Davidson.
Well, one of the big stories of the game was certainly the defensive line for both sides of the ball, for Corona Del Mar and for the Newport Harbor Sailors. I mean, starting with CDM, Charlie Mannon, he was a force to be reckoned with on offense and defense, but particularly on defense, getting to the quarterback. Dylan Wood had a big night, put a lot of pressure on Harbor, didn't really allow them to get the run game going with Peyton Irving, really clogged up the middle. Mason Kubicek had a good night. He was all over the field. So the defensive line and the linebacking core for Corona Del Mar really set the tone and made Harbor one-dimensional. I think it was 80% to 20% pass to run ratio for Harbor. You never want to be that one-dimensional. You're looking for a balanced offense. So that's a credit to CDM and what they did defensively.
Yeah, and it was a record-setting night in terms of 9 straight for Corona Del Mar. That is the new longest win streak in the series. You heard the kids saying 9-peat as they rushed the field at Davidson after the game. Tough loss for the Sailors, especially considering that means no postseason. They got 1 game left against Los Alamitos. So Newport, they drop to 3-6 on the year. Corona Del Mar moves to 7-2. And while CDM was setting records with their 9th straight Battle of the Bay victory, Edison, they were victorious in the Bell game over Fountain Valley. 17 straight years. Barons haven't won since 2004. It was a 51-0 victory for Jeff Grady's squad. Here was the scene from Orange Coast College Labard Stadium after the game.
Smile big.
51-0. Howard, what a performance by Edison.
Well, we see it every week. We talk about it every week. There's just so many guys on offense to get the ball to make plays, including multiple quarterbacks, which we'll talk about in a second. But when you see 51 points on the board, that means that's a determined team, it's a talented team, and it's a team that's hungry and not taking their foot off the gas. You know, Edison, we talked about it with Coach Grady. We don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but they might go really far in the postseason, depending upon where they're slotted. This is a CIF title contender type of team, so it's good to see them put up those big points with all of the playmakers that they have. And then this week, we saw one of our guys from club football who we love, senior quarterback Tyler Gioia finally got some action. He looked excellent.
We talked to Coach Jeff Grady about Tyler Gioia, the senior, coming off ACL surgery in April, getting the start in the Bell game.
Yeah, I thought it's something he's, obviously coming off that injury from last year, and something he's earned. He's a captain on this football team, and everybody respects him and loves him to death. And we thought it was a good opportunity to get him a start. It's a senior year. It's a Fountain Valley game, and pretty special.
The Tyler Gioia story, very special. He was most likely going to be the starter going into this year, tore his ACL during the COVID season, comes back so quick, putting in work overtime. Parker Awad, the starter this year, having a great season, but Coach Grady giving his senior quarterback a captain, Tyler Gioia the start, and that's just really special. You heard Coach Grady say it, it's special.
Well, he's capable. You got Gioia, you got Awad. It's a problem you'd love to have if you're a head coach. You got 2 mobile quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks with great arms, with a lot of experience. So it's a good situation over there that Coach Grady has. And you combine all of that passing talent with a guy like Troy Fletcher running the ball. We've already seen him score 5 touchdowns in a game this season. He gets a rushing touchdown this week, also blocks a punt and scores it himself. I mean, he's a guy that does it offense, defense, special teams. He's just a heck of a football player.
He's been doing it all. And Howard, when we have to make our Sunset League MVP choice, because I think we will give out an award for Sunset League MVP on Sunset Rewind, I guess I'll go out on a limb and say we're going to do that. We're going to have a tough decision because a guy like Troy Fletcher, seen some buzz on Twitter for he's a guy that'll certainly be in contention for that.
Absolutely. Whether it's MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, might be Special Teams Player of the Year, he could be Back of the Year. I mean, just a really dynamic, versatile football player.
It's hard to find things to talk about for Fountain Valley in this game, 51-0. But talking to head coach David Gutierrez this morning, he knows that his defense and his offense, but his defense really had their hands full defending those Chargers wide receivers. And he highlighted defensive back Richard Doe as someone who stood out to him.
So our DBs, I thought Richard Doe, he was by himself a lot backside. I thought he did a really good job for us. And, you know, in that position, when you're the boundary corner, they're coming at you all the time. So I think he stepped it up this game, and he did really well for us.
Well, credit to Richard Doe. You know, when you're getting a shout out from your head coach as you're the cornerback, the boundary corner, having to defend Nico Brown, Tucker Tripp, Troy Fletcher if he's spread out, Tyler Hampton, Ashton Hurley, you're getting a lot of work, seeing a lot of different bodies. So shout out to Richard Doe, having a good night, staying consistent, continuing to fight. And you need those individual performances and guys to take pride in what they do and find ways to be successful and keep working despite a very lopsided score.
The result was as expected between Los Alamitos and Huntington Beach, 49-14 the final score. But the big news from that game, junior quarterback Malachi Nelson setting a new touchdown record for the Griffins when he found Makai Lemon in the second quarter for their second touchdown hookup of the night. It was 59 total career touchdowns so far in the season for Malachi Nelson. That breaks the record set by Kevin Federick between 1993 and 1995. And here's our friend Kent Backel on the call of the record-setting touchdown for Griffins Radio.
Ethan O'Connor by himself down the left. Back to passes. Nelson sets up throws. That's Lemon. He's got it. Makes one miss. Makes another one miss. He's on his way. He's at the 40. Cuts back at the 30. The 20. The 10. The 5. Touchdown. Griffins. History's made. Malachi Nelson on the 714 dials it in. And there it is, folks. The new record's just been broken. Buddies Malachi Nelson and Makai Lemon.
Well, it sure helps Malachi when he's got guys like Makai Lemon doing stuff like we just saw, getting blocks from the outside receivers. Then you got a dynamic ball carrier. So it really helps, of course, when you have these skill players. But let's think about it. I don't know what kind of team Kevin Federick was on, but Malachi's on a team where he's only playing 2 quarters a lot of the time because they're blowing people out, so he doesn't get any second half throws. Also, as a sophomore, Malachi only had 6 games in a COVID season, another season where they were blowing people out. So I'm going to say Malachi's snaps have been limited, and that's just how good this offense has been. Yes, it's a different day and age, so there's a lot of passing going on today, but still, Malachi not typically, but often creates one-play drives for his team. Whether they're in the red zone or they're down on their own 20, he can hit one of these receivers and go 80 yards and bam, touchdown that fast. So it doesn't surprise me that Malachi has broken this record. He's absolutely going to shatter it as he continues throughout his career.
Yeah, 59 total touchdowns. He's still got at least 1 or 2 games left in this season, maybe more, and then a whole senior year. So he's got the record right now at 59, and he's most likely, we'll see what happens, but he's most likely going to set the single season record. He's at 37 is the record held by Jimmy Barnes. So we'll see how many Malachi throws next week against Newport Harbor, and then at least 1 playoff game for the Griffins. Can he get 6 or 7 over that span? I think he probably will.
Absolutely. I mean, excellent passer. He's throwing to his future Oklahoma teammates. It's got to be fun over there in Griffin land.
On the flip side, Howard, tough loss for Huntington Beach. They knew what they were up against, but Coach Brown, he said he liked his team's fight and their resiliency in this game.
I mean, considering the score, I was proud of my team, or proud of our team. I thought we battled. I thought we competed. There was no quitting them. I mean, we all know that's a good football team. And, I don't think we backed down. That was my biggest fear, was going into it. And we talked about it all week. I said, if you think you're going to lose, you're going to lose.
Howard, when you were playing tight end at Oregon State, the 2008 season, you guys went on the road early in the year. You lost 45-14, second game of the season, to a very good Penn State team. 2 weeks later, you come back at home in Corvallis and you upset the #1 team in the country, USC. So my question is, when we look at a team like Huntington Beach, what can you learn from a beatdown? What can you learn from going up against a tough team, a good program, and losing soundly?
I think what you learn is it's in the reaction. It's in the response to the loss. Because while you're getting your head kicked in like we did against Penn State, 45-14, it feels terrible. It feels horrible. You know, so what you really learn is how are guys reacting? Are they still playing hard? Are guys still playing for each other? You know, and then in the following weeks, is the confidence up? Is the confidence down? You know, it's easy to come into the office and watch film, or come into your coach's meeting room and watch film, get some extra film in when you're winning, when you project to go to the playoffs, when everything's going your way. But what are you going to do after a big blowout? And that's the time when you have to come together as a team. Those are the times where you have to dig deeper, get the extra film in, get the extra reps in. So a team like Huntington Beach is one that I expect as a program to take this loss, bounce back from it. I think they're going to play with a lot of fire next week. They have another tough game. But Coach Brown is a guy that every time we talk to Coach Brown, we ask him, hey, Coach, what went well for your team? And then we ask, what went wrong? What didn't you like? And when he tells us what he didn't like, he always includes, he usually starts with, well, I need to put my players in a better position. I need to prepare my guys better. So he's an accountability guy, and that starts at the top. So what you can learn is you'll learn a lot about the character and integrity of your team and how they respond to a loss like this.
We got one more week of games left heading into Week 10. We'll have a preview show coming up for you in a couple of days. But Week 9, rivalry week. The streak continues for Corona Del Mar. The streak continues for Edison. And Los Al just continues to roll. Thank you, everybody, for staying tapped in with Sunset Rewind. Go to sunsetrewind.com and bookmark that page. It's getting better and more robust every week. Follow us on social media at sunset_rewind. This is your last week to go to a home game and pick up a magazine or hat. We might be sold out of hats. I also know we have hats for the ladies now. Those are in full effect, on full display at Davidson Field. Little pink dad hats, I guess you'd call them. Those are pretty tight.
They are, and it might be your last week to pick them up, because in reality, I'm banking on the Edison Chargers to host some home games in the playoffs. Hopefully Los Al can host some home games in the playoffs, so we'll see how it goes. But really some exciting stuff coming up the next few weeks for Sunset League, even though we're winding the season down.
For all the players, parents, and coaches in the Sunset League, from my broadcast partner Howard Kroom, this is Alex Crawford saying from the 405 to PCH from Saddleback to the Pacific Ocean. You've been watching Sunset Rewind. Thanks for tuning in.